Hey, all, we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes, but we'll give folks a chance to file in here. And we'll be on in a minute or so. Hey, all, thank you so much for joining us today. I am super excited for this conversation. I'm Katie Roundtree. I'm NCRC's Membership and Events Director. And yeah, happy to be convening this conversation in some of the cities and states that we work with very closely. And thanks for joining us all here. If you don't mind, go ahead and share where you're from in the chat. And I'm going to go over a handful of housekeeping notes here, just some little etiquette pieces. All attendees are on mute right now. If you have a question, feel free to put it in Q&A, that box at the bottom there. We'll pause for questions when we can throughout the session and answer those as we can. And then we'll have some Q&A time at the end of the program. I am joined here by my colleagues, Bob Dickerson, Cornell Cruz, Ernie Hogan, and Marceline White. Those are executive directors of local organizations. Bob is from Building Alabama Reinvestment. Cornell leads Community Reinvestment Alliance of South Florida, soon to drop the S, I believe. He'll speak more to that in a little bit. And Marceline from the Maryland Consumer Rights Coalition, and Ernie Hogan from Pittsburgh Community Reinvestment Group. And this is a different type of conversation than we've had. We're experimenting and inviting y'all to join us in this little test here. We've realized over the years that so many of our members are working in coalition and in partnership and collaboration, both locally and nationally. And there's actually a lot of benefit to folks on the front lines of their communities to be able to do that in a variety of different ways and vehicles. So we're experimenting with offering a discount to make it easier and more affordable for folks to be a part of membership associations operating at more of a local level, as well as being part of NCRC. And so my amazing colleagues here have taken the plunge with me to see what this might look like, and have a wealth of experience of helping their own members benefit from being able to work at both that local level and the national level. So I'm really excited for y'all to get to hear from them today. And yeah, we'll talk a bit about what these local coalitions are doing, and what NCRC is doing with our members, and kind of what the synergies are between that work. But before we get into the local work, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Maggie, who is our membership engagement specialist, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about NCRC as we get started.
Hi, thanks, Katie. So my name is Maggie Mishlevitz. I'm the membership engagement specialist at NCRC. And what this means is if you're a current member or a prospective member, I'll be the first person that you can come to if you have any questions about what NCRC is about, what membership involves, how you can join, how to access any benefits. And I was going to go into a little bit about what NCRC means and its roots a little bit. So as you can see on this slide deck right here, NCRC and its grassroots member organizations create opportunities for people to build wealth. NCRC started in 1990, and we've been working with these organizations to promote economic rights, usually based around CRA or the Community Reinvestment Act. So the Community Reinvestment Act laid the groundwork for holding financial institutions accountable, for promoting banking services to low and moderate income members of communities everywhere. And that's kind of where NCRC takes its work. Typically, CRA is used to combat redlining, which was a practice where banks would not issue loans in neighborhoods with high populations of low and moderate income or minority residents. So a lot of our work revolves around making sure that private capital is reinvested into the communities where our members are engaged. And then this slide also has a little bit about what features come with becoming an NCRC membership, and you'll learn a little bit more later on in the webinar today as well. But some of the key features are an annual Just Economy Conference, which involves a Hill Day, where folks can go up to Congress and speak with their representatives. There's research support for members. There's a lot of newsletters and listservs that can talk specifically about topics that you're interested in, anything from policy to healthy communities and so on. We do a lot of advocacy work. There's regional summits around the country, as well as webinars and training, and of course, networking. And our panelists today are going to plunge a little bit more and give you detail about how they themselves have taken advantage of all those different membership benefits. Let me just switch the slide deck here really quickly. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about what sorts of member organizations are part of NCRC. We have what we call a big tent, which means that there's really room for all sorts of organizations doing different types of work in NCRC and the coalition. So everything from community development corporations to organizations focused on housing, educational institutions, so on. The big three buckets that we talk about are nonprofits, educational institutions, and then local and government, local and state level government agencies. We even have a few arts organizations, community land trusts. There's really a space for everyone in our big tent, a space that you can learn more about how the CRA, the Community Reinvestment Act, can work for your community and your organization. And then the last thing I'll touch on is a little bit more technical, just so everyone has an overview of membership and the price tiers. Like I said, there's a nonprofit section, government, and education. And you can see here that we go about membership dues based on how big your annual budget is. So there's a small section, medium, and large. And then for any folks who are on this call and curious about supporting NCRC, but don't happen to work for a nonprofit or government or educational institution, we also have the Just Economy Club for individual members. And what this means is you can make a donation of your selection on a monthly, yearly, one-time basis, and you would get access to a lot of different benefits, not as wide of a spectrum as benefits as organizational membership, but you would still get access to research and newsletters. And I can give more details about that if you wanted to reach out to me. My contact is membership@ncrc.org, and I will drop that into the chat as well, just so you have it there. But that is all from me from now. I'll turn it back over to Katie.
Yeah, thank you, Maggie. And now we get to the really fun stuff, talking about what's going on the ground in your communities. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to ask each of our panelists to share a little bit about their organization, their mission statement, how they work with their members. And, I just want to point out, I frequently say that one of the most amazing things about NCRC is just how diverse our members are. We have so many folks that are working towards a just economy in a variety of ways. And so I hope you'll also take a moment to appreciate that each of these organizations is working towards a just economy in different ways and partnering with their members in some different ways. And that's really exciting. And just want to lift that up and honor that. And then after you have a chance to hear a little bit about each of these organizations, then we're going to have a little bit more of an open discussion amongst these panelists about why they think it's worth it for their members to also be a part of NCRC, and how their associations, their coalitions are made stronger when their members also have that national connection. So I'm going to start off and call on Mr. Dickerson. Tell us a little bit about building Alabama reinvestment.
Well, thanks, Katie, and thanks to NCRC and your staff and Maggie for putting this on. And just let me apologize. I meant to disable Outlook, so my computer's probably going to bing a couple of times. So, so I'll try to get that fixed. The bar story is perhaps a little different from other coalitions. I became a member of the NCRC board in 2008 after hosting several challenges to financial institutions who were not lending money to African-American owned businesses here in Birmingham and all over the state of Alabama. And actually had been a member of NCRC for about 4 years, hadn't really engaged that much, and invited Josh Silver, who was my first contact with NCRC, to come down and help me fuss at some banks, and consequently got on the board. And frankly, the person who really encouraged me to use my influence to pull not just NCRC members from Alabama together, but other potential members, was NCRC founder and president John Taylor, CEO and president at that time. And I'm always, I laugh a lot about John's New England accent, because building Alabama reinvestment, it's kind of a natural name for a community reinvestment organization. And we call that BAR. But of course, John calls it BAR. So I hope you get that difference in BAR coming from Alabama and BAR coming from somebody from New England. But we are pretty much a microcosm of NCRC. We are bringing together nonprofit organizations. I just wish our membership was as diverse and broad as the list that you just put up, and that's certainly something that we aspire to. But we do have a number of organizations from over our state that are interested in making sure that our banks do as much as they can for our community. And I think that is the underlying and undergirding factor or common characteristic of all of our members. Whether you're a housing counseling organization, fair housing, fair lending, small business development organization, we all want to make sure that we utilize the Community Reinvestment Act as a tool to really help uplift our communities. And so that is why we came together. Now, we may be a little bit different in that we only formed now 10 or 12 years ago. But for any NCRC member in the state of Alabama, membership in BAR is granted. So it's granted. There is no separate application. We have really prided ourselves in being inclusive and really reaching out to our members. And I don't know how much time we have for this, but I do want to say just one more thing. This is an absolutely fantastic but challenging time to be a member of NCRC and a member of a state CRA coalition. The South is just, and really it's a national phenomenon. We've got a lot of merger and acquisition activity. We know that NCRC has really been engaged in helping foster and craft these community benefits agreements. So there has never been a better time to be a member of NCRC and a member of a CRA coalition. But it's never been a more challenging time. We just last year had one of the biggest threats to CRA that we've ever experienced in its 44 years of existence. And some of those threats may come again. And it's just important for us, both from a national level with NCRC, but also on a state level, so that we can start to influence state and local activities, state legislatures, city ordinances, cities activities, along the lines with things that will help us have a more inclusive and a better and fairer economy. So I wanted to get that in. I'm happy for the bar members that got on the call. I'm sure I over talked my time, and I apologize for that. So back to you, Katie. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. That was great. And yeah, without any to do, I'm going to turn it over to Cornell to talk about what he's doing in Florida.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Katie. Thank you, Bob. The Community Reinvestment Alliance of South Florida will be changing in the next 30 days. We are becoming a statewide organization. We're going to be known as the Community Reinvestment Alliance of Florida. And we will be helping and partnering with all the organizations that are part of NCRC, as well as NCRC, and build a just economy. As a matter of fact, I requested from Katie and NCRC to use the just economy in our new theme, which is building Florida's just economy, $1 one vote at a time. The Community Reinvestment Alliance of South Florida is kind of like the baby of the group. We've only been around since 2015. Our founder was a board member of the NCRC, and John Taylor, and I'm sure Bob had a lot to do with it as well, because Bob is past chair of NCRC board, encouraged Arden to found an organization to lead the fight on the Community Reinvestment Act and build partnership and collaborations with the nonprofits, as well as the financial institutions, government, and for-profit agencies to help us build a better Community Reinvestment Act. They encouraged him to start it, to found it, Arden Shank, and he did found our organization. We are encouraged by being able to educate the nonprofits on the Community Reinvestment Act. And just as importantly, the financial institutions, be they nonprofit or for-profit, and government, which has been it's been amazing to me how little the government entities know about the Community Reinvestment Act and how they can better use it to empower their communities. And I think that's one of the things that definitely has to be put at the fore. As I stated, we're going to be doing our statewide expansion, including the whole state, which is with the exception of what Bob claims to own, which is lower Alabama, up in the panhandle of Florida. We might have to step outside in the back and have a fight about that, Bob, and see who comes out the winner. But anyway it goes, both of our organizations will definitely help the organizations benefit from that. You know, we just started the Just Economy podcast, and we got our summit coming up. But one of the things, the last thing I'm going to say, Katie, is one of the important things about being a member of this organization and of NCRC and wherever your state is or community organization who's invested in this work is being a part of NCRC, being a part of the coalition that NCRC has built along advocacy, making a better Community Reinvestment Act, changing the Community Reinvestment Act, and engaging with the financial institutions when they purchase or merge or acquire on community benefits agreements. And part of that community benefits agreement is not only asking the banks to go above and beyond in reinvestment in their across their footprints, but also being a part of the community advisory boards and being able to get our voice in there and tell the banks, okay, here's what we need from you. I just had one yesterday. We sit on several, and I just had one yesterday. And the reason why I sit on several is because of NCRC. That's the reason I'm a part of those community advisory boards and being able to tell the banks exactly what the community is going through, to include their staff, because the staff has to live here too, and what they're going through and what we need from them. So I'm sure we're going to talk more about it, but I just want to get a brief synopsis of CRASF. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, thanks, Cornell. And Marceline, I'll turn it over to you to talk about how your organization is working in Maryland and how you work alongside your members.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Katie. It's great to be here with such a great crew of NCRC members and advocates across the country. As Katie mentioned, NCRC is a big tent and has a number of diverse members. And so I want to tell you a little bit about my organization, the Maryland Consumer Rights Coalition, because we are a little different than my two colleagues who just spoke. The Maryland Consumer Rights Coalition has been around for a little more than 20 years. We're just celebrating our 21st anniversary this year, and was founded by a group of advocates who wanted to make sure there was a voice representing working families at the state policy level in Annapolis. So I've been there since about 2009, when I became head of the organization. And MCRC really focuses on advancing economic rights and financial inclusion. We really see it as building a people-powered movement of both individuals and organizations that come together to fight for systemic changes, and really focus on issues that affect low-income and working families, and particularly communities of color throughout Maryland. And we do this in several ways. We work on policies at the municipal level. We work at the state level on policy change. We also conduct our own research on a number of issues that affect residents throughout Maryland. We run direct service programs. One of our programs is called SOAR, which is securing older adult resources, which provides support, financial counseling, coaching, literacy, as well as helping people with earned benefit checkups and tax credits. We run a tenant assistance program, which is a hotline and advice for people who are facing eviction or having other challenges with their landlords. And we provide advice on both their rights and responsibilities, as well as the rights and responsibilities of landlords, and everything up to legal assistance, where we will pass that on to a partner. We have a fair housing program, which is the only fair housing program in the state that does both education and outreach, but as well can do investigation and enforcement of fair housing obligations. And we also do organizing. So we really came to NCRC through some of our work at the community level, and became a member, and actually won an award for a film we did, which talked about a range of issues that were affecting Maryland residents. And then I became further engaged because we know that banks have a huge role to play in creating just economies. We had worked on housing policy. I came in 2009 and was very involved in the foreclosure crisis and policies at the state level. And with NCRC, really wanted to engage in an opportunity to get banks to invest in communities, especially traditionally redline communities and communities of color. And through this partnership, through working with NCRC and being on the board, I have been able to be part of community benefits agreements and help to connect and highlight for banks in the community other partners that may be able to benefit from investments, from programs, and make sure that they know the good work that other partners that we have, as well as people we collaborate with, are doing on the ground as well, and kind of highlight that for banks to try to help channel some resources there, but also to make sure in the community benefits negotiations with banks, we're bringing together people and really representing the needs of the community, especially those who are focused on low-income consumers and residents in traditionally redline communities. So happy to talk more, but really enjoy the partnership. And again, we really focus on trying to do the systemic policy change as part of it. And I'll talk more later about how NCRC has partnered with us on that.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Marceline. And finally, but certainly not last amongst greatness, Ernie, can you talk to us a little bit about Pittsburgh and how y'all are working there for a just economy?
Thanks, Katie. I don't know if I can stand up to that introduction. Thanks. And thanks to my colleagues and partners across the country and in like cities. NCRC and PCRG have been partners for almost 32 years. From the inception of PCRG many years ago, we became an advocacy organization modeled after implementing the Community Reinvestment Act and stemming off the impact and effects of redlining in the Pittsburgh, Allegheny County region. Today, PCRG represents a wide variety of communities across the city of Pittsburgh and throughout Allegheny County and now into Washington County and beyond. We continue to grow and offer our policy and advocacy work embedded in our strong research and advocacy around that. We continue to expand and offer capacity building programming. We continue to offer our services to our members with regards to training and education compatibilities so that they can compete in today's markets and continue to drive investment. And on top of that, we've been an advocate and driver of local policy in support through NCRC. Our membership in NCRC has brought much home to us. It has been an amazing way to learn some of the best practices and opportunities across the country that we can then bring here to implement. And always a strong partner standing next to us. PCRG looks to continue to support the advocacy and the work within our communities. We focus our policy work primarily on equitable access to our land, advocating for affordable housing, continued investment from our financial partners, of which we have 22 partnerships. And lastly, the mobility and how we connect communities together and ensure that our residents have equitable access to the services and education opportunities throughout our region. So we look forward to the conversation today and continuing the work that has been much said and dovetail into many of the comments that my partners on this call have said. Thanks, Kitty.
Yeah, thanks, Ernie. So now this is we're going into a little bit more of an open conversation. And I'm going to pose the question to this group of why is it important for a local organization to be a part of both a local association and NCRC? Is it enough? PCRG is an NCRC member. Do I also need to be, should I be a member of both, or should I just, choose one or the other? What's kind of the, what are the benefits of being in both buckets, if you would? And before I let folks speak as they will amongst our panelists here, I will say that we have had a chance to talk beforehand, and we've got a little bit of a checklist that I've promised that if they're missing things from that checklist, I'll pop in and remind them, oh, didn't somebody want to talk about this or that or the other? So forewarning and reminding folks that I might be doing that. So, but with that, whoever would like to start first, take it away.
I'll jump in on that one. I think one of the things that I believe is an important tie between the NCRC family and the PCRG family, and why joint membership, when this became an opportunity, became a very strong interest to PCRG, is that I think as we build a stronger base locally, as it was mentioned by my colleague, we took on and there's still a significant fight ahead of us around the Community Reinvestment Act as modernization is on the table. It is imperative that our member base is educated and has access, but also lends its weight to our national partners so that we can push that influence on the federal level. If we can't all collectively stand together as the PCRG family, but also as the NCRC family. I think that becomes a critical point. I think NCRC only makes PCRG stronger in that we can lean on them when it comes time for that advocacy push. In addition, they have been an amazing resource for us to augment our research capacity. PCRG has been a strong leader in research and has produced much, to the point where we bring the local perspective on that, and NCRC can bring the national perspective of what's happening trending wise across the country and how those impacts are affecting like cities. I think those become pretty interesting. Others want to chime in on this?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So first of all, there's no way to divorce what happens in any state or any community from what happens federally and nationally. And I think that having members in Alabama, which is not a huge state, but to understand how we connect to some of the decisions that are being made on Capitol Hill, NCRC has already created those avenues. And so it's very important for statewide organizations and members of NCRC, members of BAR in the state, to understand that those national connections are important. Now, on the flip side of that, and I mentioned this earlier, there are things that happen in our state legislatures, there are things that happen in our cities that we have to focus on. But one of the things that I think that I have and other members have gleaned from NCRC is the how to, how to form coalition, how to effectively advocate, how to challenge. And so those are things that that a lot of organizations, if it were not for NCRC, might not be as competent at or as capable of. And so I'll stop there, because there are many other things, but just highlighting those two things, I think, are important reasons to both be a member of a national organization as well as be an active member of the state coalition.
Yeah, I would, tagging off of what Ernie and Bob have said, I'd like to focus on three things. One is research, the other is training, and the third is the conference. So in terms of research, we've done work, as I said, on the Community Reinvestment Act, and we've done work to prepare and engage in challenging banks when they're not doing the right thing, or to challenge them around mergers and acquisitions. Or in Maryland, there's been a huge issue about bank branch closures. And so we have worked very closely with NCRC's research department to have them help us with the data and providing access to the data to really get a historical view of bank footprints over a period of years, where we can see that footprint shrinking, but also get a very clear perspective about banks' lending activities. And that's all critical information for us to have to advocate effectively in Maryland for strong community benefits. It's important for us to share with our members who are coming around the table with us to highlight what they want to see in a community benefits package from the bank, so that we have this historical record. And NCRC's research team has been great about that. We have a paper coming out in January that's going to look at PPP lending in Baltimore to see if there are any racial disparities, or what communities there received PPP funding and which ones didn't. And we worked very closely with the NCRC research team to develop the research, to get feedback on that research, et cetera. So that's been really helpful for us to make these points at a state level, backed by a national research team. Secondly, I would say, as I mentioned, we work on fair housing, we have worked on foreclosures, we work on training and organizing, and in a number of cases, we've partnered with NCRC trainers. You can see they do counseling, they do small business lending, they have a CDC. There's so much that NCRC does to create a just economy, that often when they're coming to Maryland, we'll partner to do a national and a state look at fair housing, or a national look at counseling, and then a look at what's happening here. People are doing more tenant counseling now. We have a tenant program, but working with NCRC to see what best practices are at the national level and what we can talk about specifically in Maryland just demonstrates why it's important to have both the state and local partnership to get the best of both the broad picture from the national level and the very specific picture about what is actually happening here on the ground in Maryland to translate that. And then finally, I think we'll probably talk about it more, but the NCRC conferences are fantastic. So many people, so many rich panels, such incredible speakers that I always come away with new ideas, new people I've met, things I want to follow up on, and being able to bring Maryland members to the conference is a really incredible opportunity for them, and to get them to go to the Hill. We bring them to Annapolis, but working with them to go to the Hill and organize those days is great as well.
So I agree with everything all my colleagues have just said. They put it succinctly and perfectly. I would just add that I think it's very important for to have membership in the statewide organization or your local organization, as well as NCRC, for all the things that was mentioned before. But I also think it's important that you understand that you learn so much from being in partnership and collaboration with these different organizations that that will help you in endeavors and providing innovative and new changes in your community as well. For instance, we are part of an organization called Public Land for Public Good here in South Florida, and the object of the game is to get public land to actually be used for public good. So I reached out, and we had a meeting this morning, and I reached out to NCRC to ask amongst the members of NCRC, is anyone else doing this across the country? And the first thing they said to me is, Cornell, we'll get back to you. We'll reach out and ask, and we'll get back to you. Because, as we try to be innovative, some places love to do sick things, try to solve a problem the same way they did 50 years ago. And in South Florida, that's our thing. If it's a problem now, we'll try to solve it the same way we did 50 years ago. And as we all know, that's not possible. But having your foot in both buckets and being a part of both organizations gives you the opportunity to reach out to people that you never thought that you could reach out to before, and to come up with some innovative ideas, as well as being able to have access to the research, have access to the community benefits agreements, being able to speak. I'm sure as all my colleagues have, we've brought on members to actually speak to the banks when we're doing these negotiations. So it's important to be a part of both. And my final thing is I will say this: everything in the states affects everything federally. There's Tip O'Neill, the former Speaker of the House, used to always say, all politics is local. Every last bit of it, no matter whether you're in DC or you're in Birmingham or you're in Tallahassee, doesn't matter. Okay, so being a part of that and learning how to approach these items so we can advocate in our states and in our local communities and dealing with local government is key. And that training is unbelievable. When we talk about Marceline, I know for me, I love the conference. Hill Day is the best. And we even this year, even though NCRC was virtual, they arranged it so everybody could go get in and see their representatives and talk about what we needed to talk about around the Community Reinvestment Act for Hill Day. But spending the day on the Hill is something extraordinary. And if you have not done it, and when I mean the Hill, I'm talking about Capitol Hill in DC. If you have not done it, you have to do it. It's like one of those things. It's like going to Machu Picchu. It's one of those things you have to do in life.
Thanks, y'all. That's great. So each of y'all have had a chance to share, and you've each spoken about a number of the things that we talked about in our prep meeting. I just want to give some space if as you were listening to your peers, you went, oh yeah, I want to talk more about that. Feel free to jump in. Otherwise, there's a couple of things I might poke at a little bit to get a little deeper in.
Katie, I think one of the things I'd like to add is, in listening to my colleagues, one of the things that becomes pretty evident, approaching banks to make sure that they're upholding the Community Reinvestment Act and to really put the muscle behind the act is not an uncommon practice of any of our organizations locally. And we've done that with great success over the years, bringing billions of dollars of investment to underserved communities. One of the things PCRG is pretty proud of, and I know my members are proud of their work also. But I think as banking is modernized, as the national banks have become bigger, what we have found is it's harder to drag them to the table because they can play a game of a national movement where NCRC and having our members be part of the NCRC family only brings further strength to our local partnerships because we can bring those banks. When in our hometown many years ago now, it seems like it was just yesterday, but it has been quite a time. When PNC announced it was buying Royal Bank of Canada, my first call was to John Taylor at NCRC. And immediately the NCRC family came to Pittsburgh and we had a sit-down meeting. I think it was the kickoff of what CBAs could be. We got smarter. The KeyBank CBA became a strong part of that a few years later. But it's the first time in a long time that we started to realize our collective power. And so NCRC, should be commended for being able to stand and aggregate our local strengths, and that strength that shouldn't be underestimated. So I think, to that point, I just wanted to reinforce it. It was something that everyone talked about, but I think bringing it to that succinctness is important to understand.
And I would just say two more things. I mentioned the conferences, and just to drill down a little bit more, thinking about some of the stuff that Cornell mentioned. At the conferences, I've almost always walked away with a new contact of someone who's doing something really interesting in Detroit, or a really cool program in Portland, Oregon that I'd never heard about, and I've got the contact for that person, and I can follow up and see if this is something we can implement in Baltimore or in Maryland. And I wouldn't have heard about it because it's not being covered. It's not being splashed across the page of the New York Times or the Washington Post, but it's really important, housing justice, or, a really innovative way of getting the community a voice in the development. And those contacts and that knowledge wouldn't have happened without being at the conference. The other thing I would say is kind of the flip side is what, to what we're talking about too, is why we want to make sure that, folks that are part of NCRC that care about this also engage at the state and local level, because as we know from the previous 4 years, sometimes it can be very hard to make change at the national level. But you can make more change at the state level. It's smaller, it's sometimes more manageable, even in really difficult states. But getting that expertise and being able to draw on that knowledge and having people who care about these issues that are working, as part of the NCRC coalition at the nationally, also be like, hey, I live in this state, I should do a little bit of stuff in this state as well. Again, has tremendous payoff because they already care, they already know about these issues, but channeling that energy as well into state and local advocacy makes a tremendous difference, because it doesn't, sometimes you don't need as large a number to make an impact. So I think it's really synergetic.
Yeah, I like that. That's great, Marissa.
I will add that the education, the CRA, the Community Reinvestment Act education alone is incredible. I knew about the CRA before I started this job, but I didn't know all the stuff that I know now. And I love educating the nonprofits and government on the great things that, even though we're constantly working to strengthen it, we're constantly trying to strengthen CRA, but the things that we can do with it now as it's in its present state. And I think I love seeing the faces of the financial institutions when I say something about a fact about the Community Reinvestment Act, that they go, that look on their face that, wait a minute, how the hell does he know that? I love that look. That is the best look in the world. How does he know how does he know? And that comes from going to conferences, being with my colleagues. Ernie was instrumental in me getting involved in schooling government about the Community Reinvestment Act and how they could better use it and how we can leverage that in order to help or in order to make our communities better as they quote unquote try to do things for the betterment of the community. But that education of it and how it works and how the banks give me that love. I love that look. I can't express to you guys how much I love. I know it's a little self-centered, but I love that look. Ooh, wait a minute. Does he really know that? How is he supposed to know it? I usually say it in an open forum so that everybody can hear it and everybody understands it. So the education and being able to educate folks on the Community Reinvestment Act is probably one of the coolest things as well.
So I just, the thing I'd like to just point out, and the thing that excites me the most right now is the fact that we have active community benefits agreements with probably 15 banks, 4 of which operate in Alabama. One is PNC with an $88 billion commitment. And if members play our cards right, organize in the right way, develop the capacity of our organizations to utilize more of those resources, then we benefit. 98% of the banks, well, it may be down to 97 now, get passed NCRA grades. And I think that if I ride around Birmingham, you would and showed you, some of the worst parts of town and, some of the areas that CRA is supposed to impact, you wonder if there was a 44-year-old law that said that that our communities would benefit from the activities of financial institutions. This is our opportunity to extract benefit. And so I'm most excited about the billions of dollars that we have available to us if we do our work right, to make sure that we get those resources to our communities.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. So I'm actually going to switch gears a little bit. Y'all have spoken very, very passionately and eloquently about why folks at the local level should also join NCRC at the national level. But I just want folks to hear from NCRC why we think it's important for individual organizations working at the local level to work together to be part of local associations like these ones, because it's some of the reasons are the same thing. There's strength in numbers, there's power in that. And that's true both when we're looking at, nationally having members across all these different states and across a bank's entire footprint. But it's also true that a number of community organizations standing together in the same city, in the same state, has a tremendous amount of power relative to banks, to local policymakers. That's where a tremendous amount of the work happens. And we need to be working at both levels. All of us just need to be working at both levels. And Marceline talked about being able to come to the NCRC conference and connecting with folks across the country. Cornell talked a little bit about that too. But honestly, one of the really fun things that we get to do at NCRC sometimes is to say to folks, hey, did you know that there's people in your own city or your own state who have some overlapping interests with what you're trying to do? Do you know so-and-so? And being able to make those connections can be so impactful for a local organization. And these folks, a huge amount of what they're doing is fostering those kind of networks and those kind of connections within their local communities. And that there's peer-to-peer learning that's important to happen on the national level. But y'all know the assets and the challenges and the unique contours of your communities, and being able to collaborate together and strategize and map out a plan, negotiate priorities like that. That's real work. And NCRC can't do that work for your communities. That's got to happen amongst yourselves. And these folks are great at convening a lot of those conversations. And a lot of that work is happening amongst their membership. So that, and I would say that, again, each of these organizations works a little bit differently. But I think that those are the really common threads through each of them. That, yeah, I think it just is really, really powerful. And again, that synergy between the local and national, I think just can't be overstated. So I'm going to turn it back over to Maggie now to talk a little bit about kind of the discounts that we have here, and how the process works with each organization. And my colleagues here, if there's anything that you want to pipe in and add on kind of the technicalities of, oh yeah, this is how the website works, that Maggie misses, feel free to jump in. But then we will give a chance to take some audience questions and close out here.
Sure, thanks, Katie. So let me just share my screen again so y'all can see the links. Can you see that? Yeah, great. So the way to go about this, depending on what part of the country you are located in, you would go to the joint membership landing page for your organization. So they're on each of these slide decks. We'll share this slide deck with you in about a week or so, as well as the recording. And I also dropped the links in the chat so that you have a clickable link right there with you. You would go to the appropriate page for the organization that you're interested in joining, the local organization, I mean, and then you can read through all the details written out for you about the benefits of NCRC, as well as the specific local association. If you scroll a little bit down on each of the landing pages, it'll give you details on the specific discount that you would be accessing. So for the Pittsburgh group, MCRC, and then CRASF, there is a certain percentage discount that you would get. You can either join NCRC first and then join the local association, or if you're a part of the local association already and you're looking to join NCRC, the discount's a little bit different, but it's all written out for you there on that website. Or you can reach out to me at membership@ncrc.org if you have specific questions, or if you can't find the link to these pages, and I can walk you through that. When it comes to BAR, it's a little different. It's not so much a discount as a 2-for-1 deal, and Bob can talk a little bit more about this if he'd like to. But if you are out of Alabama and you join NCRC, you are able to join BAR without paying any additional fees. All you would have to do is let BAR, Bob and his staff, know that you have joined NCRC. They'll double check with us, we'll confirm, and then you'll be able to get any benefits that come out of joining BAR. And then if you are interested in joining NCRC, we have a membership page on our website. So if you go to ncrc.org, you click membership near the top, there's a big pink button that says join today, and that's where you would go to join via credit card online. And I'm happy to walk folks through any other questions that they might have. I'm also happy to set up a call so that you and I can talk one-on-one in a little bit more detail about all the different membership values that our panelists walk through today. I can give you a little bit more details about the logistics of things. Happy to do that. Just send me a message or give us a call, and we'll set something up. And we're looking forward to seeing folks take advantage of this new discount. Thanks, Katie.
Sure. And we've got just another minute or two for questions. One question actually I have for our panelists while we're waiting for any additional questions. NCRC's research tool is the fair lending tool that was just created. It's one of the new benefits that we're really excited to see members use. And it's also one that I think just about every NCRC member can use in some sort of way. So I'd love if any of y'all had a chance to look at that. A kind of overview of bank lending data by MSA. Would love to hear kind of, how you would think that your members might use that tool. Mm.
I think it's that research tool is invaluable, and you'd be amazed at the questions that you can ask, and the researcher team will come up with an answer for you. I also think that, and these days as we write grants and we got to get creative in grants and do innovation, that research is vital as you add it to a grant to support your argument for that particular grant. That research is invaluable to you, especially as you come up with something new that no one's ever tried before and you're trying to get funded. Those numbers are incredible when you do it by bank MSA or the state or whatever the case may be. Being able to do that is an invaluable service.
Awesome. Thanks, Cornell. And I do have a question here, just kind of asking Maggie, could you clarify again the way, we know that bar is a little bit different, but for the organizations, how does the discount work if you are joining either the local organization or NCRC for the first time?
You would reach out to whichever organization you're trying to join. So if you're already a local association member, you would reach out to NCRC or visit one of the landing pages that I shared. And then if you scroll near the bottom of the landing page, it'll give you a discount code. You would go ahead and use that discount code as you're signing up for NCRC through the main NCRC website. If you're already a member of NCRC and you're looking to join one of the local associations, there's also contact info on the landing page of someone who works at one of those local associations, and they would be able to help you out with how to apply the discount to the local association's membership. So I believe that there's email addresses for all 4 of these organizations on those landing pages, so you can reach out directly to them. And then in terms of the size of the discount, it varies from organization to organization. So folks would have to find that info on their own, depending on which part of the country they're from.
Awesome. Thanks, Maggie.
Mhm.
Well, y'all, thank you again to our panelists and partner organizations here. It is a joy to get to work alongside y'all for a just economy, and yeah, grateful for y'all, grateful for your members, and for both NCRC members and members of these local organizations that are joining us today. We're grateful for the work that you do. I'm grateful for the time that you gave us today, and look forward to finding ways to work together in the future. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and feel free to reach out to us with additional questions. Like Maggie said, there's a lot of contact information in these slides. We'll send out a recording of this in the next week. So thanks all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks, everybody.